In this video, I'm going to talk about some editing features that will help us make our designs more robust and save some time. So I created this part. I started with a block, and then I added this little wing, this circular extrusion, and this hex revolve. And then I have one more feature that I'm going to talk about in a different part of this video. And if I like all these features and I just want them to be reflected on the other side of this shape, I don't have to recreate all of them and redimension all of them. I can just mirror them across this front plane. So to do that, I'm going to select my wing, and in the features tab, I'm going to go over to mirror. And it's asking me what face or plane I want to mirror across. I'm going to choose the front plane. And you can see that I already have this feature selected. Maybe this was the wrong one. I can go into my model tree here, click the drop down and grab the correct one. And I can also, if I want to mirror it across two faces at once, I could do that as well by clicking the second mirror plane and choosing a different one. But I don't want to do that, so I'm going to delete and accept my changes. I can see that that was reflected across. The good thing about this feature is that if I make any modifications to my original part, it will be reflected in the mirror. So maybe that feature should actually be 3 inches. If I accept, I can see that both were modified. But like I said, I want all 3 of these features to be mirrored across that plane. There's a couple ways that I can do this. I can select all 3 and hit that mirror button, or when I'm already in the mirror tab, I can edit the features I want to mirror. So I can remove this, I can add, not the block, the wing, and then I can add all of them and see this little preview of what it will look like. I'm going to accept, and you can see that all 3 of those features were mirrored. Another thing you can do in SolidWorks is group features. So I can grab these 3 features, right click, and add to a new folder. Maybe I'll call this side 1. And anything I might want to do those, I just hit this drop down and see them all in there. The next thing I want to show you is the pattern feature. So for this, I'm going to use this last extrude that I made right here, and we are going to pattern that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on that feature and go up to this pattern here. Linear pattern is the default. There are more options, but let's start with linear. I actually want a little bit of a better view. And it's asking me the first direction I want this to go in. So if I want it to go along a certain edge or perpendicular to a certain plane, that's what I'm going to select. So if I want it to be perpendicular to this plane, I'm going to select it. And I can change how many members there are, how far apart they are, and anything else I might want to do. I can change the direction in which they're going as well by clicking this here. I can have them go in 2 directions, so I'm also going to select this plane here for my direction 2. Right now there's only 1 member, but maybe I want there to be 4, and I'll make them a little farther apart. I can see the details here in these boxes. I can move them out of my way so I can get a better preview. And when I'm satisfied with my pattern, I'm just going to hit accept, and I can see that that feature was patterned. So instead of making this same cylinder 8 different times, I can just make a pattern of it. But I'm going to delete this pattern and show you a different one. So I still want that feature selected. I'm going to the drop down under linear pattern, which is in the features tab. And next we'll show the circular pattern. So this needs to be about a given axis. So I'm going to choose this one here. And I can see that my members are going to be 15 degrees apart, and there's going to be 2 of them. I can obviously edit these however I want. And I can also say, hey, maybe there's 90 degrees and I want them to be equally spaced across those 90 degrees. Instead of instance spacing, I'm going to select equal spacing, change that to whatever I want that overall degree to be, and change my number of members. And maybe for whatever reason, I want to skip a couple instances. You can do this with any of the pattern features. I didn't show it for the linear, but you can do it for that as well. Let me actually move my picture. I can hit this drop down next to instances to skip. And you can see these pink circles show up on each feature. I can just click the ones that I don't want to show up. And that is what I was looking for. The next pattern I want to show you is the curve-driven pattern. You can also see that mirror is available under the pattern feature. It doesn't matter where you use it, but I want to do the curve-driven pattern, which means I need to draw a curve. So I'm going to hit this surface and create a sketch. And just kind of move it around. And again, you always want to fully dimension your sketches, but for the sake of this tutorial, the dimensions aren't super important. What I'm really trying to show you is the pattern feature. So I'm going to go back into my pattern feature, select curve-driven pattern. For my direction, I obviously want that curve. For my features, I still want this cylinder. And it's just going to follow this curve. Right now I have equal spacing selected, which means it's going to do 10 members along the length of this curve. But maybe I don't want that. Maybe I want them all to be 1 inch apart until it reaches 10 or 12, whatever I may choose, and it just may not reach the end of that curve. But if I hit accept, I can see that they follow that sketch that I just made. The last one that I want to show you right now, I'm actually going to delete that sketch, get it out of the way, is the fill pattern. So for my fill boundary, I want this entire surface to be covered with this feature. And I need to go in and select that feature. If I'm having a difficult time doing it on my actual model, again, I can go to this drop down and select it here. And I can see that this filled up my surface. And there's different patterns that I can choose depending on what I am looking for. And I can also mess with the spacing and change the number of instances per side. I can play around with this. I really recommend you explore the pattern features. There's a lot of different ways that you can make patterns in your model. But for now, I'm going to pick one and accept. And actually, this feature might be a little more obvious to show you, that remove instances feature, this instances to skip if I need to skip a couple of them in here. This is just going to show it to you a little better. You can see very clearly the ones that I removed.